Nikki, I'm super excited for us to introduce today's Stardust Society guest. As our listeners know, you and I actually met in a randomly assigned accountability group inside of a surface pattern design course called Immersion about, oh my gosh, 5 years ago?
I know, Laura. How lucky were you that day to meet me?
Oh, wait. I was thinking that you were the lucky one to get to meet me.
Well, actually, we're both lucky to have gotten to know each other and our entire accountability group that we still meet with to this day, and especially to get to know our guest today.
Bonnie Christine is an internationally renowned surface pattern designer, entrepreneur, and award-winning online educator. She has created at least 16 different fabric collections for art gallery fabrics, and like the true Startist that she is, Bonnie is a completely self-taught designer.
And as you'll remember from last week's episode, she taught both of us how to create repeat patterns in Adobe Illustrator and so much more in her Immersion course. We could go on and on about Bonnie, but let's let her tell her story.
Hi, this is Laura Lee Griffin.
And this is Nikki May with the Startist Society, inspiring you to stop getting in your own way and start building an art biz and life that you love.
We are artists who believe strongly in the power of community, accountability, following your intuition, taking small, actionable steps, and breaking down the barriers of fear and procrastination that keep you stuck.
Follow along with us on our creative business journey as we encourage you on yours.
Bonnie, welcome to the Stardust Society. We're so excited to have you here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me.
We are super excited to ask you some questions. And like we do with every interview we do, we want to start with your Startist story. How did you get started in creativity, in art, and specifically surface pattern design?
I love this question. So, like probably everyone listening, I grew up very creative. I would say maybe even crafty. We had a craft room and we're always into projects. My mom owned a fabric store. And so a lot of what we did was sew and make our clothes and quilts and all the things. So I was always super creative and, but also did not know what to do with that. So when it came time to go to school, I went to business school and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Wasn't sure how to make that happen. So I moved back home, married my high school sweetheart, and started working for my mom at her fabric store. So this was in 2009. And part of my job there was to meet with sales reps and decide, like, look at all the new fabric collections and decide what we were going to carry for the store, which was so fun. And one day it hit me like a freight train. Oh my goodness, this is someone's job. Like someone is designing fabric and it's all over the world. And for the first time ever, pretty much everything I ever wanted in life aligned at once. I wanted to do something creative. I wanted to own my own business. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't have children yet. I do now, but I knew that I wanted to be able to work from home and I wanted to work from wherever because we lived in a super tiny town. And so this felt like the moment that my calling was made clear to me. And also I had that voice in the back of my head, like, who do you think you are? Because I had no idea what this meant, what it looked like. I wasn't an artist. I didn't know any computer programs. I had no idea how to get started. And if you remember 2009, there were also like no online classes specifically about this.
Right.
And so I just kind of sat in complete overwhelm for 6 months. I wanted this. I was talking about it and also not doing anything about it. So I woke up one morning and just fiercely decided to get started already. And so that day I Googled how to become a fabric designer and I just started following kind of one rabbit hole after another. And so I promised myself that I would start doing one thing a day. I started tracking and I obsessed over this. I did not miss a day. And so for me, 15 minutes is what counted. And one thing led to the next, my friends. And at the end of 18 months, I signed my first fabric licensing contract with my dream company. And my biggest dream came true.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. That's such a great story.
I love that because we talk on the podcast a lot about procrastination, fear, and overwhelm.
Yeah.
And that one thing a day concept is awesome because it's so easy to get wrapped up into, oh my gosh, I have to do all the things. And then you get frozen and you don't do anything, right?
I was paralyzed in the overwhelm because mainly the dream was way too big. It was overwhelming. I had no idea what it looked like, what I needed to learn, how to even make it happen. And yeah, I think oftentimes we stand at the edge of a big dream or a big goal and we want to like finish our to-do list and clean our desk and have our taxes done before we start. And we want all the answers. We want to know what it looks like. And honestly, none of that happens until you start moving, getting your hands moving and getting into it. And so that starting is just, we know starting is the hardest part, and yet we still battle with it. Like just start and then don't stop.
So, Bonnie, a lot of our listeners are surface designers or are interested in learning more about it, but we definitely have a lot of listeners who are in other kinds of art and creative businesses. So for those who aren't aware, can you go into a little more detail about what surface pattern design is and what the possible career paths are?
Yes. So I wanted to be a fabric designer. I had no idea that that was part of this big, beautiful industry. So really the industry is called surface design. And that is any product in the world that has art on it. So if you're listening and you want to imagine walking into your favorite store, maybe it's Anthropologie or Target, and just start thinking about all the products. So mugs, rugs, tea towels, the clothing, diapers, tissue boxes, the makeup packaging, all the things that have art on them is designed by someone. And that person is a part of the surface design industry. Now, surface pattern design is a segment of that industry that we all love so much because it is creating artwork in repeat patterns for products that require it, like fabric, wallpaper, lots of stationery like gift wrap and tissue paper, tape, and ribbon. And so it is a skill that once you learn can translate into any of those industries.
I love that. You often say, Bonnie, that there's room for you. So for someone who's starting out now, who maybe thinks it's too late to start, why do you believe there's room for everyone in this industry?
Well, I'll tell you the origin of that. But there truly is room for everyone in this industry. It is largely an untapped industry. I mean, we're talking about products. So every brand, every company in every industry, in every country in the world is looking at artwork of some type for products, let alone digital products like websites and e-gift cards and all the things. And so there's so many different avenues that you can take. But when I was starting, I also started as a blogger. So back in 2010, when everybody was blogging, I started as a blogger and I emailed.
Was that Going Home to Roost? I
It
think
sure
I read
was.
that blog.
It sure was. Yeah. And so here I am, little blogger, new kid on the block, and I'm like emailing all of these really successful big time bloggers like, "Hi, my name is Bonnie." And most of them did not reply as should have been expected. But one did. Her name was Gina, and she replied to me and she said, "Welcome. There's room for you here." And it sunk into my bones. Like this actual competitor of mine, right, said that there was room for me. And it changed everything for me. And I hope that it changes everything for those who are listening. Like there is a perfectly sized hole in this industry that only you can fill. And there absolutely is room for you and your art and your unique perspective. It needs to be shared.
That's really great to hear because we have, as our name indicates, Startist Society. We have a lot of people who are just getting started and they're feeling that, whatever industry they're interested in is already saturated and what can I bring to it that isn't already there,
Yeah, well, everything has been done before. And I think that's
Right.
probably important to know too. Like it has all been done, and also it's not been done by you. And so we want you to do it. We want your perspective. We want to see how you would. And so come join this incredible movement.
So, Bonnie, I've been following you for a long time and have watched your business grow. And I'm amazed at the number of different things that you do. um, so, my word for the year this year is habits. So, I'm focusing on forming good habits rather than specific goals. Um, can you share with us some of the systems or habits that you use on a daily basis to stay focused, even when you're juggling like all your big goals and your day to day responsibilities?
I'm a bit of a habit nerd. I do love a good habit, and I love habit stacking, Nikki. I love if I'm trying to establish a new habit, I love pairing it with a long established habit so that I can try to knock them both out together. Um, and so there are so many ways to set yourself up for success. A couple that come to mind for me is that I do a daily brain dump of a task list at the end of my day. So rather than at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of my day, I kind of write everything down at the end of my day so that I can set aside those open loops and then really be present with my family. And then I have it waiting for me when I come back the next day. I also think it's really important to identify and prioritize the task list. And so you know, as a creative entrepreneur, you're never done. Like my husband will sometimes say, like, "Are you done?" And I like always laugh, like, "Well, I'm to a stopping place. How's that?" So
Yeah, I have that same conversation all
yeah,
the time.
I'm to a good stopping point. And
What
so
is done?
done doesn't exist. And so
Exactly.
because of that, human nature is that we want to feel accomplished. And so typically we start with the easiest tasks and work our way to the harder tasks. But because of that, our harder tasks are left for the time where our willpower and our focus and our creativity is often at its lowest. And so you really have to have self discipline and flip that priority list around and do the most difficult tasks first and save the smaller tasks for later because what you don't want to do is do all the things and feel very accomplished, but really when you put your head to bed that night you're not sure that you move the needle forward. And so I always love to identify the top 2 or 3 things in a day that if I do these things tonight, I will know that I move the needle forward to accomplish the thing that I'm working on. And then the smaller tasks, they go in between or they go to someone else or they don't get done at all.
Right. Start the day eating the frog first,
Yeah.
like they say. So, we actually want to change the subject a little bit and talk about the elephant that is in every single room these days, which is AI.
Ah, okay.
So, we use AI on the podcast to help us do things like outline our episodes and create transcripts. And I use ChatGPT to help me write proposals for branding and web design clients. And I know from last year's Immersion course that you use it and recommend it for things like assisting with crafting elevator pitches and brand statements and understanding contracts, things like that. But we want to talk a little bit about the fears that artists have around AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know many artists, Bonnie, are concerned that AI artwork is becoming kind of prevalent. They want to understand why should they invest their time and their money into learning how to create, repeat patterns and gain these new skill sets when there are features built into some of these standalone tools for it.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to individuals about that?
Well, it's here. AI is here and it's not going away. And I do think it's incredibly powerful. And also, I believe it's not here to replace our art creation. So I'll talk about that in depth. Um, I also feel like there's some shaming happening. Like people who are using AI to create art have a guilt associated with it. And so our stance as a company is that we don't shame the use of AI. And at the same time, we don't teach AI from an artwork creation standpoint in the course. And so our position on it is disclosure. So if you've used AI, we ask you to simply disclose it. But we don't shame around that. It's just that
Mhm.
for those people who are using their hand techniques to create art, should never be comparing their art to someone who's been using AI. So here's what I know to be true. And there's not a lot that I know to be true right now, as quickly as AI is evolving and developing. Here's what I know to be true. We were created to create. It is a uniquely innate human behavior to create something out of nothing. And that is irreplaceable. And so from the dawn of time to the end of time, we will be creative. And so how that looks might change. And also, I know for a fact that we will always create art from our hand. And so I have a hunch that we'll call it human made art is
Mhm.
actually going up in value, because what is more rare is more valuable. And so I think that as the artwork creation can sometimes be automated today, that there will be even more value placed on art that was made by hand. Now, I do think that this causes artists to show up a little bit differently. I, for one, am really interested in your art and why you made it. I want to know your human experience. I want to understand the humanity behind your artwork. And so, in years past, where artists might have been able to kind of hide behind their art, I think it is pulling us to be more in front of it. Like, show your face
Mhm.
with your artwork, share your story with your artwork, share your process. Like I have, people won't be able to see this, but I have this print right here that is like a little fern print.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You think it's just a little fern print, but when I really look at this, I remember a walk that I took with my daughter in the woods, and we found this stump covered in moss, and there was little ferns coming out of it, and we picked them and took them home, and we had this whole process. And so telling the process of the print or the pattern or the artwork brings the humanity into it. And humans are attracted to humans, and they're attracted to that human experience. We're attracted
Mhm.
to the difficulty too. Like, was it hard to make the art? Was there something that you overcame? Is there a story that you can tell with it? And so I do think that today we are going to be called more into sharing that part of artwork creation more than ever, in order for people to connect. Um, as we lead this industry, our dedication is to kind of be really paying attention and leaning in. Like I said, we don't teach AI artwork creation in the course. But also, like, what is it going to look like in a few years? I feel like none of us really know, but we are leaning in and we're paying attention and we're dedicated to being, a good source of knowledge from it as well.
And I think that's so true to say the value in the human hand. I mean, I really think that that is something that's going to only increase in value over time.
Mm.
To your point, it's the story around it, but they will want to invest in that experience to have a piece of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, by the way, whether AI is doing it or not, we're going to keep creating surface pattern designs because nothing's more fun, right?
There is a
It's
joy.
so fun.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Did you know that it's actually scientific of why our brains love to see things put into repetition? But when it's not just something, but it's your own artwork and it's coming to life out in the world, like, there's no wonder. And so there is this, like, very addictive, in a healthy way, nature to pattern design and joy. So some of my favorite stories are from students who are like, this impacted my family because I love what I'm doing so much. The joy just spills over, and my husband's happier now, and my children are happier now, and, like, my home is a happier place because I'm doing something that I love so much. And that's like this whole side benefit that's kind of hard to even put words to.
It's so fun. I still remember, Bonnie, the first time I created a repeat pattern, which was inside of Immersion. And that feeling that I got, like, once it was done and it repeated, I thought it was the coolest thing since sliced bread. It was so fun.
Yeah.
So I actually talked last week on the podcast about my start in doing repeat patterns, and it was even super fun for me way back in the early 90s because I'm old. And when I learned to do it, by drawing on little squares of paper and cutting them apart and moving them around and taping them back together. But I actually learned how to do repeat patterns in one of your Skillshare courses, Bonnie. I learned from you, and that's what got me super excited to learn how to do it in Immersion. And so I immediately signed up.
Oh, I love that.
So, Bonnie, one of the things that we all get a little scared about is turning something that we really do love doing into a business because we're scared it's going to take away our joy and kind of the fun in that process. How do you keep that from happening, Bonnie?
I don't know what could be better than to turn what you love into something that also provides. I think what an incredible opportunity to love what you do so much that you can't even call it work. You can't even call it a job. And also it's providing. What an incredible thing. And also, I think it's important that you do keep some things that you don't try to monetize. And so there is kind of a behavior of creatives like, oh, I can make money with that. And so
Right?
you like end up monetizing everything. So there are a couple of things that I do, and I do them just for me. I mean, these sound silly, like how would you even monetize that? But I work out and I do it just for me. And I don't really share
Mhm.
parts of this with people because, I could tell you how to eat and how to exercise and how to do the thing. And I don't want to because it's just for me. And I flower
Mhm.
garden, and I do bring that process into my surface design work, but I don't monetize it. Um, I've been doing like pottery lately, and I'm horrible at it. I'm so bad. And also, I'm having so much fun.
It's so much fun though,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah. Quite the learning curve.
I actually just did a little ceramics workshop. I'm in the middle of the desert in Arizona at a schoolie event, and I made a little watercolor palette. It's just
Oh,
a
nice.
slab with indentations in it,
Yeah.
and it's so hard to get it to do just what you want it to do.
Yeah. And also so fun.
It is. It's so fun. Are you doing stuff on the potter's wheel?
I am, but I don't have a wheel, so I have to go
Yeah.
to a class to do that. And yeah, it's something that I want to explore more though, because my daughter loves it as well. And it's something we
Oh,
can do
that's great.
together. And it's super creative and also nothing I would ever make any money at.
It's good to have that kind of thing where
Yeah.
there's no pressure on it.
Yeah, just fun.
So, Bonnie, I'm not sure you realize, but Nikki and I actually met through your immersion class.
Okay, I did not know that.
So we were in an accountability group. And so this whole
Oh,
podcast
wow.
was born
in 2020.
in
Okay, I love
2020. It was
this.
born out of that.
Yeah. So we were in a group with 3 other women, and we're in the US and the other 3 are in Canada.
Wow.
And in 2020, I took a road trip and met Laura, and we were sitting around at brunch talking about,
Wow.
what we were going to do with it, with everything we learned in your course. And we were like, this should be a podcast. We're really funny.
And here we are years later. Yeah, it's been an amazing experience. But let's talk a little bit about the courses that you offer. So, Bonnie, right now, I think you have a free workshop going. Is it your pattern design playbook?
It is.
Why don't you share a little bit about that?
Okay, so this free workshop is set up to accelerate really everything you need to know about the industry and about getting started in it. It's especially for you if you want to kind of break into surface pattern design. So it is free and also only available for a short time. So it's up until February 25th. And you can catch the replays and all of the live sessions. So there's 4 lessons and 4 live sessions. Lesson number 1 is called Pattern Possibilities, and it really explains, we've touched on it today, but it really explains what surface design is and what is the opportunity that it brings to you and your life. Lesson number 2 is called Your Pattern Plan, and I'm bringing you into what it might feel like to actually work as a surface pattern designer. So I'm giving you the 5-step process that I developed and I've used for 12 years on how I ideate a pattern collection. So we're doing a mini version here, and it's hands-on, super creative, really fun, and also no barrier to entry. You don't have to use a computer program or create art. You just have to kind of envision.
I think that lesson is a really, really exceptional one because it's it's fun and easy to get started with repeat patterns because once you learn the basic concept, you can put things in repeat.
Yeah.
But to come up with the ideas and figure out how to make it a cohesive collection, your lessons are really great for that.
Thank you. I love this workshop. It's my favorite thing I do all year. And so I didn't mention that in lesson 1, you get a list of surface pattern design industries and also a glossary, because you'll notice we've probably already said some words like licensing or POD and all these things that you might not know. So you get a glossary to go with it. You get the plan with lesson number 2, so you can map it all out. Lesson 3 is called the pattern path. And this is where I really take what took me 2 years to figure out and I map it out for you. So we have a menu of action items and stages and milestones for you to really a la carte choose which ones you are going to build your path with in order to get you to your goal. And so we break down this big kind of overwhelming thing into very straightforward, clear action steps. And my hope with this lesson is that it just clears the fog and it shows you the way as easily and clearly as possible. And then lesson 4 is coming out on Tuesday, the 18th, and it is how to earn revenue from your art. So the 15 different ways that pattern designers earn revenue from their artwork. So it is for sure the one everybody is going to want to watch. And then we do live sessions on the in-between days. And so the live sessions are Q&As and also little sessions that I teach at the beginning, like 5 lies that we believe and why they're not true, and the 5 biggest mistakes that beginners make that you can bypass if you listen. So it's very fun. It's been an incredible week so far, and I would love to see everyone there.
Yeah, so I want to just make it really clear. The course is already, the class has already started, but you can still go to startistsociety.com/immersion and sign up through our unique affiliate link and you can go through it at your own pace. Well, not completely at your own pace, because I think it's only up until the 25th. Is that correct?
The workshop is available until the 25th. Yeah.
Right. So even though you've missed the first few lessons, once you log in, you'll find those waiting for you. So you can watch them. You can binge watch the ones that you've missed and then catch up.
That's right.
So the Surface Design Immersion course is actually your most comprehensive offer, Bonnie. Just like the name says, it is an immersion experience. So what do you think makes that course unique, and who is it for?
Well, you two, I love that you know just how immersive it is. So this course really condenses everything you need to know in order to potentially have a career in surface design if that's what you want. So we teach it from that career transformative perspective, knowing that we also have students who want to do it on the side or have a side hustle or do it even just for fun. But we teach from the career umbrella. So it's 8 modules long, and we learn Adobe Illustrator from the ground up. So no matter your skill set, you can come in and confidently learn this program. So we have an introduction to the program and then a mastery module so that you can truly become a professional in Illustrator. Then we move on to creating repeating patterns. Then we move on to creating collections of those patterns and building a portfolio before we move into art licensing. So what is art licensing? How do you do it? How do you price your work? How do you understand contracts? How do you negotiate contracts? How do you pitch your work? And then we move into the last module, which is creative entrepreneurship. And this is what I know is that you could be the best artist in the world. And if you don't know how to market your work, you won't be successful from it. And so creative entrepreneurship is where I make sure that you're set up for success from a business perspective. You know how to monetize, you know how to start an email list, and you know how to build the business that you want in order to use your creativity for your career.
Well, Bonnie, I actually just re-signed up this year to take it. And one of the reasons is that back when I took it in 2020, you didn't have as much on the entrepreneurship side.
Yeah.
And you're right. You can learn to make amazing repeat patterns. You can have beautiful artwork. But if you don't know how to market that and get it out to the world, then, it's just myself and my dog Gus looking at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I actually went to grad school and studied fiber arts and learned, a lot of this stuff about how to make things, but there was zero education on what to do with it once you got outside of school.
Yeah. Well, I hear that a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. That's why your course it's amazing. I mean, it takes you from knowing absolutely nothing, never having used Illustrator, never having made a pattern, to how to get a career going.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, the most incredible part to me is when students, especially those who've been to art school, kind of come back and tell me how they compare. And I think that is one of the reasons why the immersion course has really become the gold standard, because it's going to teach you not only what you need to know, but how to really use it too.
So your courses, a lot of them emphasize community. You have the accountability peer group that we mentioned. From your perspective, why is being part of a creative community so important?
We do. We connect and we have community in this course. And it's there for you if you want it, but it does end up being so incredibly impactful for this reason right here, that you two found each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this So there are 3 layers to the support and the community. The first one is, well, gosh, there's really 4. Okay, so the first layer of support is really our expert team. So we have 25 experts who are alumni, who have come through the course. They have excelled, and they are truly experts at the material and Illustrator, and they are there to support students every single step of the way. And then there's me, who also do live sessions every week for Q&As. There is this community where we all come together to share our work and ask questions and get feedback on our work and say that we're struggling or say that we just landed a licensing deal, like all the things. The next layer to that is a small group. So this year they're called the small group experience. We've changed this a little bit. You guys probably were a part of a peer group or an accountability group.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, every year it seems like we consider taking it away because it is a labor of love from our perspective. It is an enormous undertaking.
So try to organize all the people into groups. Yep.
And also every year, stories just like yours are like, if we do nothing, we have to offer this small group experience. So this year we're calling it kind of like a way to micro-size your course experience. So we do put students into similar groups, so similar location, similar place in business, like you two experienced. But this year, we're also doing a bonus session for all small group members each Friday with me. So I'll do a small bonus session lesson, and then we're going to break them out into different small groups. And so it's an additional way to meet your fellow students in small groups. And so it's really a way to connect. And I think that it might be most impactful for us in this community because, one, we're creative, and oftentimes, I don't know, we're surrounded by people who really might not get that part of us. But then we start saying words like surface pattern design and licensing and Illustrator and the pen tool, and our friends' eyes just glaze over. And so you're really in this community of people who understand what you're talking about, what you're going for, how to get there. And then also, I think that connection piece is just something that we continue to miss more and more by nature of how the world is run today. Like, we don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore. And so we're just missing connection in our lives. And this is a way to connect with people who have so much in common with you.
Although I'm pretty glad I don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. But yeah, so we've loved our group. You know, like we said, we took Immersion for the first time in 2020, and there were 5 of us. And so Laura and I talk all the time because we do this podcast together, but the other 3, we still have an ongoing chat, 5 years later.
We were talking to them today, Nikki.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, yeah, because we said, hey, y'all, we're interviewing Bonnie today.
You have to go tell them I said hello.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I've been in other courses that have this kind of group, and none of them have gelled the way that this one did. So we are so grateful to you for not just teaching us everything that we learned inside of Immersion, but for this group that we got together.
I love that.
So I want to ask you about something that's new in Immersion this year, which is the certification.
Yes. Okay. We're so excited about this.
Tell us about that. Yeah.
For the first time ever, 2025 students are going to be invited to become certified. So we are looking at the course, which really has become the gold standard. And for me, I typically kind of teach students and off they go. And I'm like, good luck. And I'm constantly trying to figure out how to further close the loop, because what students really want is to make revenue from their artwork. That typically means landing a deal, getting licensed, whatever. And so I'm always trying to figure out how can I further close the loop for students, and the certification is part of that. So it is optional. Certainly you don't have to take it, but if you do enroll in Immersion, it's included for that year that you enroll. And so at the end of the course, number one, you have to finish the course. Number two,
number one is a very important step. We joke all the time about how many courses we've signed up for that we haven't finished.
Well, but I would like to say that I did finish Immersion.
Yes, you did. And also, I think a little motivation in order to finish could be helpful. So you have to finish the course.
For sure.
Number two is that you have to pass the exam. So the exam is 2 parts. The first part is open book and it's written. And so it's going to validate that you are market ready, that you have industry knowledge, that you have licensing knowledge, that you understand the world of art licensing, and you're ready to pitch. So there's this market readiness. The second one is a hands-on design brief that you'll be actually submitting a project in, and we will be hand grading that one. And so you have to pass both. And if you do, you get a badge to use. You get a certificate and a badge. And the idea is that the badge signifies that you are market ready. It's an Immersion Designer certified badge. You can use it on LinkedIn, on your portfolio, on your website. But the flip side to this is that we are doing an industry-wide campaign to over 400 top licensors to educate them on the fact that this is coming and what it means. And so we'll have a webpage that you can send your contacts to that explains that the badge certifies that they are market ready and they have this kind of underlying understanding, but that they're also proficient in Adobe Illustrator, which is the industry standard. And so we are really excited about it. We're hoping that it accelerates and eases the students' kind of mission to find the right company and the right licensor.
I love that. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Nikki, we've got to be certified.
That's right.
Well, you're taking it this year. I'm skipping this year, but I probably will do it again. Are you gonna get certified at the end of it?
Sure. Absolutely.
Excellent. So, Bonnie, I have a question about, say someone like me. I took it. I did Immersion in 2020, and I did it again last year. Is it possible to get certified without going through the course again, or do you need to sign up that year to get the certification?
You have to sign up that year. So 2025's course is the first course that we're using to certify, based on it being up to date on industry standard, et cetera. So you will have the opportunity to renew your certification year over year. And so there will be a cost with that, or you can come back through the course, which is the same cost for alumni. It's 75% off. It's the same cost as the recertification. So you ought to come and do the course because it comes with that. So every badge will be different. It'll have the year on it so that you can maintain your qualification.
Nice. That's a great idea.
That makes sense because the programs change and things change over time. So
for sure.
All right. Before we go, Bonnie, what is one piece of advice that you wish you'd known when you got started?
What a great question. Okay. What do I wish I would have known? So many things, Laura. I wish that I would have really understood how to make progress on the goals. And so I often feel like when I look back, I think I mentioned this, I wasn't really taking myself seriously. Like there was this moment where I thought about the future, more successful version of myself. And I thought, what does she act like? How does she show up? And it was different than how I was showing up on that day. And so I started to kind of embody this future, more successful version of myself. And it's like you have to act like that person in order to become that person. And I could have learned that much earlier. I could have learned that much earlier. Just take myself seriously and really create a space for me to step into in a growth perspective. That involves kind of getting comfortable being uncomfortable and pushing yourself to get more comfortable being vulnerable. And that's part of this because we're going to have to show our work and show our face and see what how the public reacts to our work. And there's a layer of vulnerability in there that I don't think enough people talk about that you really have to embrace and learn how to conquer, because I think the misunderstanding is that successful people aren't afraid. And that's not true. The successful people, every single one of them that you know, are so afraid, they just do it anyways. And so I think that I spent some time waiting for the fear, waiting for the imposter syndrome to fade, and it doesn't. It's just that you learn how to show up and do the thing anyways. You do it afraid. You do it vulnerably. You do it with imposter syndrome, and there you are doing it.
That's fantastic advice. I mean, we talk about fear and procrastination and overwhelm all the time. And I think, just to remind yourself that the people that you see who are really kicking ass, they're also afraid.
They're terrified.
But they're still freaking doing it.
And you can too. You can learn to kind of have this ability to manage some of that fear and some of that vulnerability. And the only way to do it is to do it a little bit at a time. And you get more and more comfortable. And eventually you're like, oh, there's the fear. Oh, there's the imposter syndrome. Oh, there's the vulnerability. And yet here I am showing up.
We're just going to keep on walking through it.
Yeah.
Bonnie, it's been so great talking to you today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You two are amazing.
Well, thank you. You are amazing, and we really, really appreciate you giving us some of your time. And we know that our listeners are going to love it too.
To learn more about all things Bonnie Christine and access our Startist Society unique affiliate links to both the mini course and immersion, go to startistsociety.com/Bonnie Christine.
And a reminder, if you sign up for the full immersion course, we have lots of juicy goodies for you.
Nikki, remind me, does this include bourbon?
Laura, to me, everything includes bourbon, but I'm afraid that our Startists are going to have to supply their own.
Okay, Nikki. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.